Us today for this very interesting class on faith and truth in Hasidic thought. And we are very excited to be able to learn together today as it relates to ethics, as it relates to issues of justice, as it relates to this pressing moment where there is so much beauty in the world, but also the world is burning with so much conflict and literally burning. And it's a pleasure to introduce a teacher of mine and a great teacher in Am Yisrael, Rabbi Dr. Mel Gottlieb, who, oh, this is an old bio. I'm sorry, I have an old bio here. It
Okay,
says you are
yes,
still the
sir.
president of AJR, but you are not the
President
president.
Emeritus, President Emeritus.
Okay, President Emeritus of Academy for Jewish Religion, California, ordained at Yeshiva University. He holds a doctorate in mythology, depth psychology from Pacifica Graduate Institute, where he's taught myth, literature, and religious studies, Jung and Freud and Kabbalah. He's also been on the faculty of Yeshiva University, Columbia University, and USC School of Social Work. His essays have appeared in national journals such as Psychological Perspectives, Ideas, and Shema, and the books Illuminating Letters and King David's Journey into Wholeness, and publications such as Huffington Post. A dynamic and engaging speaker, he's a frequent lecturer at the C.G. Jung Institute of LA, as well as synagogues of all denominations throughout Southern California. Rabbi Gottlieb is the former director of Hillel at MIT and Princeton, and the co-founder of Claremont Lincoln University. So Rav Mel, thank you so much for being here with us.
Okay, thank you. You could see me because I can't see you, but you could see
Yeah,
me.
we see you great.
And you hear me. Okay. Welcome, everybody. So we're going to speak about faith and truth in the Jewish tradition. I actually wrote an article about this years ago in the journal called Ideals and Conversations. It's issue number 30, and if you'd like to read that, in addition to this, you could find it there. Okay, so let's begin. So the assumption here is that this world is not a world of absolute truth, but as the saying goes, the Olam HaEmet, the world of truth, is when you die, you go to the world of truth. This is not a world of truth. The Rambam once had a problem about the problem of good and evil in this world and the lack of absolute truth. So when he was on his deathbed, he asked his great student to come visit him in a dream and let him know why this world is not a world of truth. So the student came to the Rambam in a dream, and he said to the Rambam, so the Rambam asked him, "No, what's the answer?" So the student said, "When I was up in the upper world, everything was so clear to me. I was able to perceive the absolute truth. But when I crossed over down here, once more, everything is illusory, and I can't really tell you because it's really not a world of absolute truth. It's a world of a journey towards truth, a world of emunah, a world filled with opposites. Thus, the Torah begins with a bet rather than an aleph. An aleph connotes unity and a naive consciousness. An aleph represents when we were in the Garden of Eden, we were all together in a sense of unity. But when we crossed over to this world is a world of bet. The Torah begins with a bet, Bereshit, and aleph is arur, it's a curse. Bet is a blessing because we're here to journey towards truth. Bet is open on the fourth side. It's closed on three sides. And we're here to fill in the fourth side, partner with God, partner with the human friends, and uplift this world. So the reason that world is a world of opposites is explained by several Hasidic masters. One is the Sfat Emet, the great Sfat Emet, writes the following, that at the end of the Parsha in Bereshit, in Vayechi, when Jacob is giving the blessings to his children, Rashi says he's prevented from giving the full blessings because if he would reveal the blessings in the world, and this world is a world of truth ultimately, people would become complacent. They wouldn't work toward truth. So the Baal Shem Tov, the Sfat Emet says that this is a world of yigia, of aspiration for truth, that truth is revealed when we work toward it, when we have hishtadlut toward truth. Also, the Ramchal, Ramoshe Chaim Lutzato, says a similar idea in Derech Hashem. He writes that God created this world to bestow good upon human beings. And therefore, if he would have created a world that was just good and people would feel rewarded because God is good, then there would be a bread of shame attached to it. Because when you do something that you feel you didn't even make an effort to achieve it, and it's being bestowed upon you, there's a certain feeling of shame, or that this isn't actually true. I'm not as good as this gift that is given to me. So God decided to create a world that has opposites, good and evil, and you have the choice. When you create good, then you receive the true reward that really is totally fulfilling. It's bestowed by the good creator on a human being that's worked to achieve good. So there's a real synchronicity and fulfillment around that. The Kutzker Rebbe, also another Hasidic master, says something very similar. He says that someone who feels he knows the whole truth, that's the demise of religion. The journey towards truth is the fulfillment and bestowing of the true good in the world. We have to work toward truth. This is a world of emunah. It's not a world of absolute truth. We find that also in the prophets. Do you have your notes in front of you or not? I'm not sure. The prophet Habakkuk.
Yeah, Rav Mel, everybody has been sent the sources, so you can just assume people have that. Thank you.
Okay, great. So the Babylonian Talmud in Masechet Makot 23b, it records a discussion among several rabbis about how to summarize the 600 commandments in the Torah. They observed first that Micah boiled them down to 3: to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. Yeshayahu summed them up in 2 statements: keep justice and do righteousness. But Habakkuk reduced them down to one statement, that this is the whole Torah. The righteous will live by his faith. The righteous will live by his faith. V'tzadik be'emunato yichyeh. Faith is what this world is about. Faith is what we have to move toward and to create a world of beauty. If we assume that we know truth, that's the demise of religion. We have to work toward truth. It says, Habakkuk says, "Ve'amidan alachat shenemar v'tzadik be'emunato yichyeh." Okay, you have that in front of you, the whole reading of it. I don't know if you would like to read the whole reading, or we'll just go on with the summary of it. But because I don't have you in front of me, and I can't see whether you want me to read the whole thing. You could read it yourselves. Okay, so now we want to know, therefore, if this is a world of emunah that has to move toward emet, how do we get there? How do we get to that integration? So there are several examples of great ancestors who give us some intimation of how we get to truth, how we journey toward truth. One is the example of Jacob Yaakov, who has these amazing dreams and was a person actually who was not an Ish Emet in the beginning. He was a liar, a trickster. He tricked Esav out of the birthright. He lived amongst the trickster Lavan for many years, so he knew all the nuances of lying, and therefore was capable at some point to transform into overcoming that which we struggle with and mastering it in a new way. So we see several dreams that he had, because sometimes it's if we think we can find truth just by facts, or just by the conscious mind, the rational mind, we fool ourselves. We don't move further on to a deeper truth. So sometimes a dream can reveal to us when we're ready to read it and witness it to a new reality, a reality of deeper truth. He has the dream when he's leaving Haran, when he's driving toward Haran. He lies down at night, and these stones surround his head. And the Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic and the Hasidic masters say that the stones were actually letters in the alphabet, and they formed a word, because sometimes we can't understand our dreams if they're just little letters, but when they form words, when our unconscious is ready to understand, to interpret the dreams, we could go to a higher place. So that dream there, he has a dream that he sees the angels going up and down this ladder, bringing down truth, lifting up truth, and he realizes that this is a world that truth can be achieved if we take the steps, if we walk up the ladder, if we move. This is a world of change and opportunity, and we can't just stay with the illusion that we know the truth. We have to keep moving toward truth, just as Abraham was told, Lech lecha, go out of your sacred, secure space and move toward Lech lecha, keep moving, be a mahalach, Sfat Emet, the Hasidic master says, to ascertain truth. The second dream, the major dream, where we see this even more precisely, is when Jacob is running away from Esau. He hasn't seen Esau all these years. He tricked him out of the birthright. He assumes that Esau is angry toward him. He sees him coming with hundreds of men. So he tells his people, his camp, to stay on the side of the Yabok River, and he's going away on a little journey. He needs a rest. He's crossing over the Yabok. By the way, the letters Yabok is the same as Yaakov. He crosses over into himself. He crosses over the river, and perhaps he was trying to still run away and lying to the people, because we lie out of fear, and he was fearful that Esau was coming toward him. But now he crosses over into himself, and he has a dream that night. The dream is that an angel or God or some archetypal figure visits him and struggles with him the whole night. He's struggling with him, and the angel tells him, no longer will you be called Yaakov, the trickster. You will be called Yisrael, he who struggles with God and finds God. And he's wounded in his thigh by the angel. So this implies that he cannot run away anymore from the truth. He must embody truth. And the word Yisrael, by the way, is interesting. Not only is it he who struggles with God, Rav Kook explains it as, if we transpose the letters to Shir El, the same letters, we move them around, it means he who sings to God. Some of us have the temperament of struggling for truth, and some sing that they have a happier temperament. But the main teaching here is that truth must be earned. Another translation of Yisrael is Yasher El, he or she who works to create righteousness. Yisrael creates righteousness in the world. But mainly, it's a journey towards truth. The poet John Donne once wrote beautifully, on a huge hill, cragged and steep, truth stands, and he or she who will reach her about must go. It's a journey towards truth. Truth is the end, but when we're here, we have to struggle toward it, and that necessitates faith, great faith. Moshe Rabbeinu is the other example of a person who finds truth through a journey. He leaves the secure place of the palace, but it doesn't satisfy his soul. He feels intuitively that he has to go on a journey, and he goes and he marches, and he sees this burning bush. Many people pass this bush but don't turn aside, but he was patient, and he took the risk. So he turns aside and sees this burning bush that doesn't get consumed, and he realizes there's something miraculous going on here, and he hears the voice of God, and God tells him, Eya asher eya, I will be that I will be. I am always with you. I am that I am. I can't be defined by anything other than being. Some people try to imply that they know God, and they say, well, God is this way, God is that way, God is a God of love, God is a God of wrath. In reality, God is beyond definition, the Ein Sof. God is the mysterium tremendum, says Rudolf Otto, and that is why we can't find the truth very easily. If we fool ourselves when we create harm by saying God says this, God says that. It's usually our own ego that has a motivation to define God in a certain way. Carl Jung said when people use the term God, they use it in different ways. I have one God, you have another God. It's just the image of God they're talking about, but God is really beyond definition. So Moshe is told, Eya Asher Eya. Now, if we look at Kabbalah and the Hasidut, we look at the notion of gematria, the amount of each Hebrew letter has a certain numerical value attached to it. So the word emet is 441. 441. Tuf is 400, Mem is 40, and Aleph is 1, 441. The word Eya Asher Eya is 21 times 21. Eya is 21, Eya is 21. 21 times 21 is 441. To discover truth, you have to embody the essence of God and beyond the mind, but embody the whole integration of the self, the heart, the soul, the mind. And then Eya Asher Eya is Emet. That's incredible. So, but how do we, what is faith, and how do we get to faith? How do we find faith? So we're going to go through the Kabbalistic tree that you have in front of you in your notes, and we're going to see some one way that we do that, one way that we find this journey of integration. If you look at your Kabbalistic tree, do you have that in front of you? The 10 Sfirot?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we see the 10 Sfirot is one way to embody God and to embody truth. And we have to understand that we have opposites in the world that we have to engage with in order to come to the middle pillar, the pillar of truth. If you see the middle Tiferet, it says Tiferet. It is also called Emet. That's the it says Tiferet Emet Liyaakov. Jacob is the person of truth. Each of the Sfirot have a certain ancestor attached to it. Well, but let's take a look at it for a moment, how we find integration. Keter is the highest of the Sfirot, and actually it's like a blinding invisible light. It's hard. It's sometimes the Sfirot are mentioned where Keter is above, and Dot is there because it's so hard to reach. It's the Ein Sof. But how do we get closer to God? Through our intellect. Each of the three layers of the Sfirot have to do with different parts of the body. Chachma, Bina, and Da'at, if we put Da'at in there, that's the mind. Chachma is the intuitive mind. Bina is the rational mind. Bina, Bain, making distinctions. Chachma is like a sudden point of light and intuition, how we can see things very deeply beyond the senses. And Bina is like the mathematician who studies facts and proves facts. So one without the other is insufficient to find truth. We need both of them, because if we're just intuitive, sometimes we could be in la la land. We could make up things just because we feel that, and they may not be totally accurate. But if we're always in Bina, always rational and disciplined and setting boundaries, we may miss the greater imaginative world. We'll soon see how Einstein speaks about the mystery and the imagination as a core source of understanding. So we need both Bina and Chachma, one without the other. Bina without Chachma is too narrow, and Chachma without Bina can lead us to illusions. So if we have both of those, we can find Da'at. The next layer has to do with our emotions. Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferet. Chesed is the art of giving, of being kind, of being expansive. And Gevura is discipline, is boundary setting, is limitation. So we need both actually to find Tiferet, to find the truth, the middle pillar. At times we should be totally giving, but sometimes if we're giving without a boundary, let's say if you have a child and you have a fire on the stove and he wants to reach out to it and say, sweetie, do whatever you want, that would be very harmful. And Gvura, if we're always very tight and not able to really share and really be self-critical and judgmental of others, that also squeezes the life out of it. We need both boundaries and expansiveness in order to reach the middle pillar of Tiferet, the beauty of Emet, of truth, of Yaakov. Chesed, by the way, is Abraham. Gvura is Yitzchak. Abraham was a person who was always going out doing kind deeds. Yitzchak was traumatized. He was very cautious because he could get killed in this world. His father tried to kill him. So his way towards spirituality was to be very careful. Midat Hadin, so we need both of those qualities to reach Tiferet. On the bottom, we have Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Netzach is expansiveness, like Moshe Rabbeinu is Netzach. He went out, he's a leader, he's aggressive. Hod is Aaron. Hod is receptivity. Aaron was a person of peace. He took in and was very relational to his people. The people loved him very much. He was a man of peace. And Yesod is Yosef. Yesod is the integration of when it's proper to be aggressive and it's proper to be receptive. When we're able to do both those capacities, we become Yosef. Yosef at Tzaddik. Tzaddik is a person who knows how to do the right thing in every situation. Joseph, wherever he was, whether he was in a prison, when he was in the house of a Pharaoh, he eventually learned how to do everything from the place of Yesod. When Shechina is David HaMelech, he's the person filled with opposites in his life, and he embodies all the Sfirot, and eventually becomes David HaMelech, the King David, the David who in the upper world, he did tshuva. He was the person, he sinned, he was imperfect because he encountered the opposites, but eventually he found wholeness through tshuva, through saying, I have sinned, I'm taking responsibility for it. And the Medrash says that there's a cute Medrash that in Olam Haba, they were having a banquet. And when it came to the benching, the end of the meal to praise God for all the food, they didn't know who should lead the benching. Who should lead? Should it be Moshe Rabbeinu? Should it be Avram? Should it be Yaakov, Yitzchak, Yaakov? And the angels in the name of God called out and said, no, David should lead the benching. He was the greatest. David should lead the benching there. So integration. This shows us that the path to truth, the journey toward truth, has to be self-knowledge, to see where you're stronger, where you're weaker, and to try to complement each of these sfirot, contain all the other sfirot. And we have to do introspection to see our weaknesses, our strengths before we go to bed at night. Is a good time to review the day. When we wake up in the morning, we're feeling integration, we're feeling delight. It says, "Ba'erev yolim bechi v'lar boker rina." At night, I go to sleep with tears, seeing all the challenges that I've had during this day. But in the morning, I wake up with joy, Rina, because either through my dreams, through my integration, through my faith that I wake up with, gratitude to being alive, I feel a sense of integration. But this is a lifelong process to discover the truth. Now, we want to understand what the nature of faith is and how one attains that. Firstly, I've alluded to the fact that there's factual truth and deeper truth, that sometimes we make the mistake that it's just through our minds that we have the truth, but in reality, it has to go deeper than that, and it's a living truth. It's a living truth that we have to move beyond the assumption of knowing truth, separate from the actual experience of truth that arises during moments of complete emunah, complete presence. And we can't say, oh, I know this. It's a fact. What does it mean, a fact? A fact is only one part of reality. There's also greater truth that we can only find through emunah. So how do we get to this emunah? How do we get to this truth? We'll elucidate that in a moment through. But first, I want to speak something about the nature of truth. You have in front of you also Paul Tillich, a great theologian who lived this past generation in New York. He was at Columbia. He was the greatest theologian, really, at the time. And he wrote a beautiful book called Dynamics of Faith, which he captures something very, very special for us to understand. So you see that in your notes in front of you?
Yeah.
Page 22. Okay, let's read this together. If that he says that true faith must always embody some doubt and a courage to proceed even with the doubt, because he says if you don't have any doubt, if you say, yeah, I know the truth, or I'm totally have the total faith in truth, you're not really comprehending the Ein Sof. You're not really comprehending the great mystery. It's just something that you've created, your assumption of what God is or what truth is. There's something beyond, something so amazing that inevitably creates a little doubt in you. Can I reach this, or is this actually true? So then when you have that doubt, you know you're actually in the same ballpark of where you're supposed to be reaching truth. So he says like this: if doubt appears, it should not be considered as the negation of faith, but as an element which was always and will always be present in the act of faith. Existential doubt and faith are poles of the same reality, the state of ultimate concern. It shows that you're thinking about the Ein Sof, the ultimate concern, and you're really on that path. The insight into the structure of faith and doubt is of tremendous practical importance. Many Christians, as well as members of other religious groups, feel anxiety, guilt, and despair about what they call loss of faith. But serious doubt is confirmation of faith. It indicates the seriousness of the concern, its unconditional character. I'm thinking about the greatest thing, about truth, about God. So doubt must be there. Then he raises the question about fundamentalist communities that sometimes don't allow doubt. They call you names, an epicurus, or you're a person who's a heretic if you chas v'shalom, God forbid, have a doubt in you. So let's read page 29. He says, how can a faith which has doubt as an element within itself be united with creedal statements of the community of faith? In the creed that we say everyone has to believe 100%, etc. The answer can only be that creedal expressions of the ultimate concern of the community must include their own criticism. It must allow doubt. It must become obvious in all of them, be they liturgical, doctrinal, or ethical expressions of the faith of the community, that they are not ultimate, that we're all struggling, we're all moving toward faith. Rather, their function is to point to the ultimate, which is beyond all of them, to the God beyond, the Ein Sof. And we'll soon see how Einstein defines this as a mystery. This is what I call the critical element in the expression of the community of faith, and consequently the element of doubt in the act of faith. Neither the doubt nor the critical element is always actual, but both must always be possible within the circle of faith. In other words, too much doubt is not what he's calling for. He's calling for the fear and trembling that we hope we're moving in the right direction. We want to be a living faith. We want to become a faith. We want to become a person of faith. And that's what's essential. By the way, in our world, we have a major problem with faith because and doubt because of the darkness, because we see how the human condition has gone through a recess of violence and lack of justice and the Hasidim say it's a result of Amalek. Amalek, we're supposed to fight against Amalek in every generation. It's a big question. When are we permitted to be warlike and to fight against evil? So it says, most of our tradition says, be a peacemaker like Aaron, an Ohev Shalom, a lover of peace, the Rodev Shalom, and pursuer of peace, Ohev had a brio to carbon the Torah and love all humanity, to bring them close to the ideals of the Torah. But there's one element that we have to fight against, Amalek, who came and attacked us after all the miracles that we had leaving Egypt and said, I don't care about this. We could do whatever we want. He was very brazen, the Amalek, and we have to destroy this people. So if we look at Amalek, the gematria, the numerology of Amalek is 240. If we look at the word doubt, Safek, it's 240. The fight against Amalek is really the fight against doubt, the attempt to recreate faith in the world. Amalek put doubt in you after all the miracles you experienced. You had faith coming out of Egypt. God performed it, and he was brazen enough to create doubt in you. So you have to fight against extreme doubt within yourself. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Safek is 240. Samach is 60. Pei is 80, and Kuf is 100, 240. And Amalek is also 240. Ayin is 60, Mem is 40, Lamed is 30, and Kuf is 100, 240. Amazing. That's a better way to engage with Amalek in the world, not just violence against them, but fighting against doubt, fighting against your own inner doubt that you project onto others and have anxiety and get angry. No, just know that you're working against doubt in the world and you're recreating faith in the world. So let's see now. We wanted to speak about also recognizing the mystery, the importance of mystery in the world, not to say, oh, I know everything and there's a world of truth. It's not. Einstein, the genius Einstein, puts it so beautifully. You see in your notes, he says, the most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It's the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of truth and science. And then we have another saying by him as well that I have someplace, and that is that the ways of creation are wrapped in mystery. We may not, we may only marvel and bow our heads at the mystery of creation. So faith is the ability to take into yourself the mystery and not fool yourself to say that this is a world of total truth at the moment. And we realize that is actually a blessing. That is actually a blessing because this makes us journey towards truth. The philosopher, the mythologist Joseph Campbell puts it this way. He says, if you're on a journey and the goal keeps getting further and further away, the truth is further away, then the journey itself is the goal. The journey itself is the goal. So So how do we find truth? So it's a challenge to do that. But anxiety, as we mentioned, is part of the journey. I'll just read to you a little bit from my article on faith and truth. I don't think you have that in front of you. I wanted to give you the whole article, but it was really too long for the source sheet. So I'll just read you just a little bit of this. The attribute of faith implies our ability to at times rest in anxiety rather than trying to escape our discomfort immediately. The enduring of the pain of uncertainty is challenging, but it leads to depth and appreciation. It suggests that this is not a world of absolute emet, but a world that contains mystery as well, and thus necessitates faith. This way of encountering the world moves us from the realm of dogmatic certainty and promotes creativity, depth, and sublime learning. As the Kotzker Rebbe taught, the assertion that one knows the full truth is the demise of religion. The journey towards truth is the flowering of religion. So how do we find faith in this world? What helps us in some way to find faith? So let's look a little at some possibilities. In our present day, when Torah study is not always the norm, and when there is not always a connection to a community of believers, the search for truth and meaning is very challenging. One is faced with the possibility of many truths rather than one absolute truth. Some individuals are able to feel the faith, the still small voice from an inner calling when one is touched by kindness and intuits that as a spark of God. Some from the actions of the righteous, the pious, the courageous in the face of darkness. Some from the gentle, resilient response in the face of rational incredulity, where the mystery of something deeper appears. Some as they walk the inner cities and glance at the hundreds of faces and wonder how incredible that each has a unique story, each is a whole world. I always feel that way when I'm walking in the city of New York. I said, wow, what an amazing thing. How could God be in every one of these people and every one of the stories of people? It's beyond my comprehension. But I have faith in the numinous that this is an incredible creation that we have here, a incredible blessing. And I see it in the faces of all the creations, all the people that are there. How could there not be a creator, a purpose to this magnificent cosmos? Some obtain moments of a sudden flash of insight, perhaps a dream, perhaps the small, still voice in the forest of the redwood trees. Another place that I feel God, have a great faith in God, just sitting under those magnificent trees and getting high off the beauty of that creation. Perhaps in the restfulness of Shabbat, some through meditation or sinking the wedding basket in front of a large crowd. That's a memory of one of my great moments of faith in my world. It's not only in the supernatural miracles, but in the miracles of the everyday, when we're open to the glory of the natural creation that works every day. Perhaps from a Kabbalistic perspective, we may call it the integration of intuition and wonder, chachma, into the realm of the rational, bina, which transforms it into a deeper knowledge, a dat, a contact with the infinite. And other people can feel the faithful God by observing God in nature, the magnificent, awesome beauty and grandeur that transcends all our doubts through beauty, creativity, music, poetry, song, the voices of dogs loving us, barking us, dogs, D-O-G, G-O-D. It's all beautiful. So maybe we can never find the absolute truth, but we can, through our actions, create faith, a movement towards truth that connects us to something larger. The word mitzvah itself comes from tzavta, to join. Mitzvah doesn't mean a good deed. Mitzvah doesn't mean a responsibility, a commandment. Mitzvah, according to the Baal Shem Tov, the great founder of Hasidim, says that mitzvah comes from the word tzavta, which is found in the Mishnah in the tractate Sukkot when they talk about joining the elements together. Tzavta. So through the mitzvah, you're joining the soul within to the soul without. It's not just a secular ethical good deed, but it's also a unification of the self, of the masculine, the feminine, all the sfirot within to God through the deed. We're doing it. That's why before each mitzvah, the Hasidim say l'shem yichud kudshabrichu ushchinte, with doing this special mitzvah, Shem yichud kudshabrichu, I'm unifying kudshabrichu, the masculine elements of God, ushchinte, with the shechina, with the feminine aspects. I'm creating unities. I'm creating unities in this disparate world. So, as we say, that the desire to de-stress and to run back into the Garden of Eden and to have an easy life without struggle, without making progress, that's actually what Freud calls thanatos, the death wish. When we die, we go to sleep, and we paradoxically find Emet after death because we're relieved of all the opposites. But the true path in the world is to leave the garden, and that's the eros, that's the life force that we have. And we say we have embraced sheep. We have the statement that after the people were left the garden, so they were that Hashem threw them out of the garden, and by Garshetam, by Shkem began Eden, Legadenet Akruvim, Veit Lahat Hacherev Hamid Pechad Lishmor Derech Eitz Hachayim. God, after exiting them from the garden, he stationed at the east of the Garden of Eden the cherubim and the flame, an ever-turning sword to guard the garden, the return to the garden, meaning that when you're in the garden, initially, the world of Aleph, it's a naive consciousness. And when you leave the garden and you work out into the world, it's not easy to return to the garden to wholeness. There's a guarding of the garden with a sword, with a fire. You have to work hard to it. But then when you return to the garden, you return to the garden with a consciousness, not a naive consciousness, but you went through a journey of integrating the self, uplifting the world, finding faith in this world, giving good deeds in this world, and then you can return to the garden with true consciousness and come back to the world of Emet right from the start, passing through this world of Bet back to the world of Aleph. So maybe we may never find the absolute truth here, but we can, through our actions, create faith, a movement towards truth that connects us to something larger. The word mitzvah mentioned comes from the word tzavta, to join. Through the deed, we join with God. Living in a community of faith helps support and strengthen our soul proclivity. Also, being part of a community, we're not just individualists in Judaism, we're connected to the whole, we're interdependent, we each imbibe from the other and give to the other and we uplift the world. So join a community of faith, and work together, just like Rav Shmuley and all his cohorts and all you beautiful people who love justice and want to uplift this world, but must create a faith, and even with all the doubt, and a courage to take the risk to keep moving ahead, keep moving, be a mahalach and perfect the world. So may each of us on our unique journeys lead to meaning, to faith, and may we discover truth at the end of our lives, when we look back and see that the journey itself held all the clues to the meaning of our lives. The acceptance of the journey toward truth, leading a life of faith without expecting absolute truth along the journey, as the Kutzker says, that's the demise of religion.